What's up, everyone? Welcome back to more Reddit stories about entitled people, crazy people, and all that kind of stuff. And as usual, we got some more Reddit posts to check out today, so be sure to share your thoughts about today's stories down in the comments, and we're getting right into it. Was told to move because I didn't introduce myself. I bought a house and never went around to officially introduce myself. I eventually started meeting some neighbors from being outside while doing yard work. I consider myself polite, quiet, I don't have crazy parties, or parties at all. People aren't coming and going all hours of the night, and I mind my own business. About a year living in my home, a neighbor from across the street, I'd met her husband but never her, marches over and knocks on my door. At first, I didn't know who she was, so decided not to answer. She eventually yells through the door and asks why I won't come to talk to her. I turn my doorbell camera on and say hello. I'm not able to come to the door, but asked what I could do for her. She goes into a tirade of how she's never met me, she never sees lights on in my house, and she's concerned that it sits empty most days. I'm fairly shocked by this, given I've never met her nor seen her before, and I do in fact live in the house I purchased, and I actually live in it every day. I ask which house she's from, and that sets her over the edge. She yells about being my neighbor and how rude it is that I never introduced myself to her. I'm confused because I still don't know which house she's from, and again politely asked for clarification. This caused her to yell, "If you don't know who I am, that's your fault and you shouldn't be here. You need to move." And with that, she walked away. I was so shaken up that I didn't go out for the rest of the day. Her husband knows me and we've talked a few times while I've been outside. He gave me the lay of the land about the people on our street, so when I figured out which house she was from, I was pretty shocked and upset. The next day, I decided to try and smooth things over. She was passive-aggressive, but thanked me for coming over and stated that's all she really wanted, and I've never seen her in person again. But I have experienced her calls to the police claiming things like I egged her house, when no eggs were found on the house. I stole some kind of light fixture from their front yard, and a personal favorite, I threw a party so loud it woke her up in the middle of the night. All things I absolutely did not do. Eventually, the police told her she will get fined if she keeps wasting their time. Not too long ago, I noticed their dog was running up and down the street with no collar on. I was able to collect him and walk him over to their house. The husband answered, quickly took the dog, didn't even say thank you, and shut the door. A different neighbor saw the whole thing and came over to tell me how horrible these people have been to me, and that they've been spreading rumors about me. I don't plan on moving anytime soon, but they're truly the worst, and I don't enjoy my yard nor my deck anymore. Hopefully when I find the motivation to sell, I'll be able to find neighbors who aren't completely insane. My firefighter uncle had his food stolen, so he took it upon himself to let them eat shit. Not my story, but one my uncle told us at a family barbecue years ago, and it has lived rent-free in my head ever since. My uncle was a firefighter working long shifts. I was young at the time, so I don't recall the exact hours, but what I do remember is that the man could cook. Thai, Indian, Mexican, always something packed with flavor. And his desserts were simple but so good. His rice pudding in particular was legendary. Being smart, he meal prepped and kept everything labeled in the station fridge, but his desserts kept going missing, especially the rice pudding. No note, no apology, just gone. Eventually, he'd had enough. He left a polite warning on the fridge. To whoever keeps eating my food, stop, there will be consequences. Of course, someone ate it again. So he made another batch, but this one was special. Still rice pudding, still cinnamon on top, but this time, he added one secret ingredient, dried white dog shit. He lived on a 5-acre property and went into the backyard to collect some. Not hard, with them having 6 dogs at the time. He crushed it up with a spoon, stirred it through the pudding, and topped it off like normal. Then he took Polaroid photos of the entire process. He left the dessert in the fridge at work, and what he assumed would happen, happened. The next day, he casually laid out the Polaroids across the station kitchen table. His meals and desserts were never touched again. Now, this happened back in the 80s, so I have no idea if he got into trouble or if the other guy complained. But I think looking at my memory of my uncle, he was like a manly man, and I'm sure his coworkers would have been the same. Not likely to dob themselves in for piss-poor behavior and admitting to eating dog shit. The principal thought I was a student. About 10 years ago, I, 48 male now, was working in a high school in Northeast Florida. I work in HVAC. My base of operations was maintenance office in the back of the school. I always tried to avoid movements in the school when the hallways were occupied, as I didn't want to risk any interactions or altercations with students. Mind you, I wore both state and county-issued ID cards showing I was a cleared contractor. However, I would often put my IDs in my pocket so they didn't get in the way, wore them on a breakaway lanyard. We also had paper visitor's ID stickers that we were given to wear on our shirts. I always put mine on my pocket on my shirt. This particular time, I was up in the front of the school and needed to go back to my laptop. The bell for the class change had just rung, so I patiently waited until the bell rang again and I headed out. Walked down the main hallway and noticed the school's principal in her usual spot monitoring students. Every class change she was there unless she was occupied with other tasks. She had actually began to walk back towards the office when I walked by. I casually said hello as I walked by and heard "Excuse me, come back here?" We're told we have to listen to school staff, so I stop and go back. "Yes," I say. "Little late, aren't we?" Pulling a notepad from her pocket. "No, just heading back to Mr. Hazel's office." "You should be in class." I blink and say, "Wait, what? Where are you supposed to be right now?" I go to point to my visitor pass sticker and realize it's not there. I reach for my pocket for my ID cards and they aren't there either. I then tell her I am a contractor working on the HVAC, and I must have dropped my ID in the mechanical room I was just in. I pull my company ID from my wallet and show her. She nods and apologizes. "Where's your visitor's pass?" "You mean those things that fall off as soon as I start sweating? Did you actually think I was a student?" Turning red, she says, "Yes, you might want to go get a new visitor's pass." "Yeah, and go find my IDs," I said. So I went back and found my ID cards, laying on the floor in the mechanical room I was just in. I went back to the office and got a new visitor's pass and stuck it to the back of one of my IDs. "Stop him, he's abducting one of the children." Spoiler, it was my 21-year-old girlfriend. About 20-ish years ago, me, 22 male, and my girlfriend, 21 at the time, worked for the same holiday park. She was a kids entertainer and I worked backstage. On one of the rare days we had off together, we decided to go into the city to have a look around the castle, cathedral, and do some shopping. First stop was the castle. It was winter, my girlfriend was wearing a coat with the fluffy furry thing around the hood. Hood up, by the way. These were somewhat common back then. I don't see many people wearing them these days. Plus, she was petite. As we enter the gates to the castle, there was a school field trip already in there. I see a few kids wearing the same type of coat my girlfriend had. They were a similar height to my girlfriend as well. I'd say my girlfriend was a little taller, but not by a lot. I jokingly said to her, "Don't wander off, you may end up part of their group," which gets me a playful punch and shut up. I go up and pay while my girlfriend mills about. I then take her hand and go to walk into the castle grounds. This is where things get interesting. I hear who I assume was one of the teachers shout, "Stop him, he's abducting one of the children." My brain lags for a second. I'm trying to work out what's going on. That's when security steps in front of me and a teacher runs up behind, grabs my girlfriend and spins her around so she's looking at her. It took the teacher a moment, but then her face showed she worked it out. She started apologizing, looking mortified. She's embarrassed, but we reassure her she's only looking out for the children. Security stands down, we have a bit of a laugh and go on our way. Once in the grounds, I couldn't help but say to my girlfriend, "I warned you." That got me another punch. Yeah, my girlfriend decided to get a new coat after that, but she liked the old one because she thought it was cute, but decided a more grown-up coat wouldn't hurt. Kept leaning on me on a bus. Enjoyed the floor, ma'am. This happened recently on a semi-crowded bus. I was standing in the middle of the bus. Although there was plenty of space around, this woman decided to stand right next to me. After a few moments, she started leaning her shoulder against mine. I politely asked her to move a little away since it was uncomfortable. I thought this was basic manners. She did, but only for a few minutes. Then she came back again to use me as her human pillar. I can't even tell how pissed off I was, so I decided to take my petty revenge. Once she got comfortable using me as her support again, I suddenly took a step back without warning, so she lost her balance and fell down right away. Stood up, looked at me, didn't say a word, and stood well away from me for the rest of the ride. Edit, I think I need to mention a few things. 1. I'm a girl, lots of you guys thinking I'm a guy. 2. The woman looked perfectly fine, no visible health issues. If that was the case, I'd never do this to her. I'm not that insensitive. 3. I can tell she wasn't a pickpocket because my bag was on my other shoulder, and she had her back against me. I'm so careful with these things. 4. The weather was hot and humid as hell, and that situation was sweaty. That's why I was more pissed off than I would have been on a normal day. My boss asked me to falsify reports. I let her sink herself. I work at a mid-sized company where I'm responsible for preparing internal reports. My boss, who's been under a lot of pressure lately, recently asked me to adjust some numbers to make our department look better. It wasn't a blatant order to lie, but the implication was clear: fudge the data. I knew it was unethical and could backfire badly on everyone. Instead of confronting her or outright refusing, I decided to play it smart. I completed the report accurately and submitted it up the chain, CCing her and making sure everything was properly documented and timestamped. I saved all relevant emails and messages just in case. Sure enough, leadership noticed the numbers didn't match what my boss had previously promised. When questions started coming in, she tried to throw me under the bus, claiming I misunderstood her instructions. Everything was in writing. I had the emails, the original data, the final report, everything. Once I shared the records with HR, it was clear who was lying. Later, she was gone. Officially, she, quote, resigned, but everyone knew it wasn't voluntary. I didn't raise my voice or make a scene. I just did my job right and let her take the fall for trying to manipulate the truth. Anyway, that's going to be all for today, guys. Thank you for watching. I appreciate it. Be sure to drop a like if you enjoyed and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already for more Reddit content like this. Take care, friends, and I'll see you next time.